Welcome everybody to this webinar. This is week 2, Environmental Education Outcomes online course. We are very excited that today we'll have 4 participants.
Alex, we lost your sound.
Oh, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll have today 4 participants from our course to speak about their environmental education initiatives or organizations or programs. Before we begin, I'd like to ask whether our instructors, Marian Krasny and Yueli, have any comments today, general, for the course. Marian, hi, Marian.
Hi.
Oh, it's also in Ithaca.
Too, see?
Awesome.
I'm very excited to hear the presentations tonight. Looks great, and they were wonderful this morning. We heard from Juan this morning. I see you're back with us again. So yeah, let's just go to the presentations. I think if people can try to make them as brief as possible so we have time to have questions and discussion, then that would be great also. But I know you already have prepared, so it might be hard to get them short enough for questions, but we can try.
Thank you so much, Marian. Okay, and here we also have Yueli. Hi, Yue.
Hi, everyone. This is Yueli. And I am also very excited to hearing more about your programs. And I just as a reminder, this is week 2, and I encourage everyone to go to discussion board and social media to share your reflections about the course materials. And since the second discussion, we divided participants into smaller groups, and in each group we have 2 to 3 TAs. So just take that opportunity to interact with the smaller group. And also, some of you, we send out a message about the auditing track on edX and some of you still asking me about about that. So just ignore that, because that is from the platform itself. Cornell will provide a certificate to you if you complete the course in the end. So don't worry about the auditing track and under the progress of edX. And that's all. And I look forward to hearing more from our presenters today. Thank you.
Thank you, Yue.
Or Alex, did you want to announce about next week's, because it's Thanksgiving in the U.S., so we're going to change the schedule a bit?
Yes, thank you. I was going to do this. So next week is Thanksgiving Day, and many participants are from the U.S. and maybe cannot really participate in the course. So next week, instead of our regular Thursday webinars and community group leaders, we will pay attention a little bit more to our participants from different language groups. So we'll send you announcements soon about a webinar for Chinese-speaking participants who will have a discussion in Chinese language. So because we have so many people from China, and we also yesterday decided to have a webinar for Spanish-speaking people, because there's so many people from Latin America, from Colombia, Chile, I think Argentina, Uruguay, and Mexico, and other countries in that area of the world. So maybe today or tomorrow we will decide which time and day is most convenient for you, and we'll schedule it through Zoom. So you guys can speak Spanish and catch up and exchange ideas about this course and maybe help each other. So it's going to be not just within your community groups, but larger for the course. So that's the plan for the next week. Also, feel free to say hi right now in the chat box. Just remind us about you, your name, where you're from, and just say hi to everybody. Okay. Let me go into my PowerPoint and say a couple of more words. Okay, so this is week 2, and here are your course instructors. And I want to remind you that we do have more than 40 community groups. So community groups are kind of support groups within this course. They are organized by some of you community course participants. In community groups, so I encourage you, if you haven't joined any community groups yet, go to this link that I provided and just explore what groups there are. Maybe there are some groups from your area, from your city, or from your region, continent, or country. Maybe there's some groups that are that fit your interest or fit your language requirements. So if you join the group, you will most likely also join a social media on Facebook or WeChat, which exists more for most groups. Some of the groups also have online, and not only online, but also face-to-face meetings in their cities with various activities. I know that participation in community groups really helps a lot of people to finish their final projects, because we encourage you to work with other community group members, other participants in this course, on sharing, discussing ideas for your final project, and helping each other to revise and finish them. So to make sure that you do a very quality job on your final assignment. And maybe one of the most exciting parts of community groups is that you can build your professional network. I just remind you that some community groups live on past the course, and they continue to talk to each other, community group members, sometimes visit each other's cities, programs, apply together for grants, or go for conferences, and take future courses together as well. It's so exciting when you take this course, you meet some environmental educators from other cities. When you travel there, you say hi and you meet them face to face, and they show you around and show you some more environmental education programs. So that's about community groups. Okay, and today we have a very exciting plan. You see the webinar 1, which was in the morning of Eastern time. We had 3 presenters. We will post the recording on the edX soon, so if you wanted to watch some of those, you can. And now it's webinar 2 today. We will have Karen, Valerie, Yuayan, and Juan, 4 exciting presenters. So what we will do, because there's not so much time in 1 hour, we've already spoke for 8 minutes, each presenter will have, let me say, 10 to 12 minutes actually. And within those 10 minutes, try to make your presentation 10 minutes, so you will have time for at least 1 or 2 very short questions. Or you can make your presentation even shorter, like 8 minutes, so you will allow 3 minutes, 4 minutes for questions and answers. So today, presenters first will briefly introduce their environmental education initiatives, programs, or activities, very briefly. And then we'll talk what are various desired outcomes in their programs. And then maybe how they achieve 1 or 2 of those outcomes. This is important because in the future we will start talking about theory of change and different steps, how we arrive to certain outcomes. So today is kind of a little bit exercise for us to see examples how we arrive to some of the outcomes. And again, questions and answers. Everybody can ask our participants questions in a chat box, and we will try to address them immediately, or you can, maybe some of you will be able to ask questions at the end of each presentation, just 1 or 2 questions, brief questions, okay? Okay, so let me unshare this, and let's see. I'm gonna invite Karen Clark to talk about her program. Hi, Karen.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome to have you. Okay, so you have now about 12 minutes for the whole presentation, including maybe 10 minutes or a little bit less to talk about your programs, and then we'll take some questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, you're welcome. Thank you. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So in 2016, I went down to Paraguay to do an internship with an organization called Para la Tierra. Para la Tierra is a very small organization founded by conservation biologists, and they work with local communities to find solutions, sustainable solutions in sustainable development to address natural habitat loss and threats to biodiversity, essentially. As I began the 6-hour bus ride from Asuncion to the remote location where Para la Tierra was located, I was immediately impressed by all the local people getting on and off the bus and walking around the capital city carrying their decorative thermos with in one hand, and then in the other hand they would have this decorative cup or sometimes a gourd that had been carved like a cup with hot mate, their traditional drink, and they'd use this silver straw, shiny silver straw, to drink it. And I thought to myself, wow, you know, it's been at least a couple generations since in the United States people would bring a thermos to work, and isn't this great that they live such a sustainable lifestyle here. But I wasn't too far along on my bus ride when every single bus stop I saw people getting on and off the bus, and whatever trash they had on their person, whether it was diapers or food wrappers, just got tossed to the side of the road. So littering is a social norm in Paraguay. So much so that Para la Tierra had not even attempted to address it with the youth eco-leadership clubs, which they had started just about 3 months before I arrived. So my task there was to help them build a foundation for their environmental education clubs, because they hoped to scale them up and found to be able to establish them throughout the country. One of the biggest obstacles to their success is that Paraguay has a long history of social and educational oppression of the rural poor, which is where Para la Tierra operates. And so for them, for the organization, the leaders, to talk with parents about having their kids join these eco clubs, the parents couldn't even envision what an eco leader, what a leader would look like, how their child could become an eco leader. What the schools that I visited there had no books, they had no papers and no pencil for the kids. The kids went to school about 3 hours a day, and I saw very little instruction going on. So Para la Tierra saw environmental education as a pathway to achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 4, at least pursuing UNESCO's Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is quality education for all. And they hoped that through providing quality education in their Eco Club program, that the kids would develop confidence and knowledge and skills necessary to become change agents in their own learning, but also in their community and their school. So Para la Tierra was very clear on what their desired outcomes for the program were: naturally to protect native habitats and species through personal behavior and collective action, but more importantly, more immediately, to inspire and involve the peers, the kids' peers, locally and internationally, and not just for now, but looking forward to that next generation. So looking through the sustainability lens, equitable opportunity is key to developing self-efficacy, identity, and a social norm of eco-leadership. So I'm going to share 3 strategies that yielded really rapid positive results in the areas of self-efficacy, sense of identity, and not only personal, but also a social norm within the club of eco-leadership. Firstly, the first strategy was storytelling. To develop the kids' confidence in their ability to motivate change, they needed to recognize that they have a voice. They have a right to speak up their own opinion and to speak out and speak to others even people who they might perceive as being in an upper social class. And so we started with this little storybook called The Kapok Tree, K-A-P-O-K, in Spanish, El Gran Capoquero, written by Lynn Cherry. And it's a very repetitious book, and we would have the kids act out the animals' parts. And then from there, we had the kids create their own little environmental stories and to share those within their club. The second strategy was then to provide opportunities for the kids to do this for their parents and then their school. So with the help of some graduate students from Miami University in Ohio who came down to Paraguay to also help the organization, we hosted a biodiversity fair, which was a whole day of fun games and activities held in the forest. And most of the games focused on collaborative activities. Even if there was some competition between teams, the teams had to collaborate together. And at the end of the fair, at the end of the day, the kids again performed that little children's book for their parents. And the parents' support of the organization and their enthusiasm dramatically increased after that day. The next step was to go to the kids' school and similarly do the performance, but this time the kids who were already familiar were helping to lead in the performances and lead in front of their peers. The next step up was to reach out to a group of kids in Mexico with an organization there called HUNAB, UNAB, H-U-N-A-B, and they were invited to come down to Paraguay and essentially have an environmental education summit. And the kids from the two groups taught one another games that they knew about environmental themes. And so here in this slide, you see a boy teaching in their native language the name of this tree, and then in Spanish, the name of the tree, which the kids in Mexico would have understood. So the third strategy then was to work on that goal of environmental action. And that was less event-oriented and more just daily, every time there was an eco club meeting or event, small steps every week, making changes. And so one of the first changes was to introduce the idea of a trash bag to collect trash at the meeting. When we took kids into the forest to help them recognize, they were not even aware when they were dropping little cough drop wrappers and things in the forest. Even if you said to them, no littering, they didn't even have a concept of it. But it only took 2 weeks for kids to start changing their own behavior. And by the third week, they were reminding their friends to pick up their trash. And so I thought that was a very rapid success. The next change was using and reusing plastic cups. The kids did not have any cups. They shared one water bottle at these meetings. And so we introduced plastic cups, which they washed out every week. And they were really proud of these cups that had their names on them, and keeping them out of the trash as well. So then from those daily small environmental actions, then the next step when the kids from Mexico came was to do a collective action, and that was a beach cleanup, and followed by an inquiry, scientific inquiry of what type of trash was collected. Did the kids think it was dropped by adults or children, and what did they want to do about it? And the kids decided that they would make signs for the tourist, and most of the trash they identified as being adults, cigarette butts and beer bottle caps. And so they made signs asking tourists to please stay on the path, pick up I'm sorry, I picked a funny slide for it, but most of the signs were pick up your trash. This one was, please stay on the path. But so that was a collective action. And then lastly, none of this would have been successful if Para la Tierra hadn't dedicated a tremendous amount of time to building social capital, gaining the trust of the parents and the community members to come into their community and trust them in their children in their care and help them understand what it would mean to be an eco-leader, especially in their society, to be a leader. And building those relationships, and also the trust with the kids, being there every week. And with Para la Tierra showing up every week, even though it's raining, then the kids, in turn would show up every week. I think that's about it. I guess the last thing I would want to say was before Para la Tierra expanded to other communities, the last project I did with the kids was a goal setting activity and helping them identify their own goal. It was a video exchange project, again, the storytelling, but the kids were setting their own goal for the project and then the steps to achieve that goal and guiding them so that it was attainable in a 2-3 week period. And then having a reflection period after the project and what they would do on their next opportunity. So having a graduation ceremony and being able to recognize their accomplishments, leaving them with that confidence in themselves. They had gained confidence in the Para la Tierra, but it was really important that they saw themselves as leaders, which I think they truly did. So just recapping the success that Para la Tierra has had really comes down to focusing on that sense of self-efficacy and sense of identity. First establishing the personal personal moral norms, and then within their safety of their eco club, some social norms, and then encouraging the kids to take it beyond. So with that, just to let you know, I invite you to check out the Sustainability Education Group, one of the community groups. Hope we can generate some more discussion about sustainable development goals, share practices and understanding. And I'll open that up to questions.
Thank you so much, Karen. Maybe we right now don't have time for questions, so I invite everybody to type their questions in the chat box, and then maybe Karen can see the chat box and also type your answers right there. And we do save the chat boxes and share through the e-decks. Thank you so much, Karen. This is so impressive. I would like, actually, maybe if Marianne is here, to just super briefly comment on this program. She did type a little bit, but maybe she can speak up a little bit, just very briefly, and we'll move to another presenter.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Karen. That was very impressive. Maybe you can go to the chat. I was just typing in a question like, how do you think the kids realized that this was a litter and changed their behavior so rapidly? Maybe it's something you can respond to in the chat, because I know Alex wants to move on to the next presenter. But it's interesting how you incorporated all the different elements, and yet I think, the program might not have been designed using like self-efficacy or identity, environmental identity, and you kind of retrofitted it, and that would be an interesting thing to discuss, because it did seem to have a lot of important elements that one would say are important for an environmental education program where you want to change collective behaviors. But I'll shut up because I know Alex wants to move on.
Thank you again, Karen. So you have some questions. I hope you can address them in the chat box. Okay, I'd like to invite Valerie with her presentation. Valerie, you have 10 minutes for a presentation, and then hopefully we'll have 1 minute for comments or questions. Valerie, now I'm gonna unmute you.
I did it.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. So let me jump into my slides here. I want to talk about a program that I've been working with since January 24th of this year. Let's see. Almost got it. There we are. And so the March for Science was really this awesome grassroots initiative that came up through almost the channels of social capital, and with an outcome, desired outcome of collective action and engaging our community surrounding an institution, if you will. So, and similar to Karen's program, we sought to empower our community's voices through amplifying this critical role that the field of science exists. So, for starters, I live in a Midwest region. We have in our metropolis, we have about 500,000 people, numerous research institutions, and you know, academic or for capital, whatever it may be. And the challenge was our community did not start off by having too much sympathy for scientists. Our community didn't directly identify themselves. And that was one of the first tasks that we really, that we sought to build the inclusion on by showing that teachers and policymakers and those who are doing law enforcement and forensic science, etc., are all engaged within 1 to 2 degrees, you know, with the greater concept of science. And so we wanted to make sure to differentiate that we're not talking about a scientist as a person who's in a white lab coat and who spends their days peering down a microscope. But there were a lot of different careers in science, in technology, in engineering, in the mathematics, in medicine. And we wanted to help identify within our community, you know, who were they? Please tell us your story, more or less. And they did. On April 22nd, which was Earth Day, we hosted, alongside 620 other locations, we hosted a 1 mile march and a rally and a science fair. The tone that we had throughout the 90 days of preparing this was that we really wanted it to be community-centric and also family-friendly. We didn't want it to be, we wanted it to be a celebration. We wanted it to be empowering. And so the images that you're looking at right now are showing families came together, dogs came together, little kiddos did their signs, and we had 19,000 people show up because it was a gorgeous day. Oh, there we are again. That's a 1 mile strip from our campus to the state capitol. And a second thing to note is our town, it loves to come out for a cause, and that can be seen as negative, or we wanted to get away from that stigma. So traditionally, individuals who are marching will go from the location that we're seeing here and go up to the state capitol. And we went the opposite way. We didn't want this to be an attack on politics. We wanted this to be amplifying evidence-based policy, and was successful. Here. The core message that we had was that science serves the common good. Science protects the health of our communities, the safety of our families, the education of our children, and the foundation of our economy. And the size of our march was not in particular unique. There were marches, both large and small, that were represented around the world. And the small marches, if you're looking down at the bottom, the 44% with 1 to 250 people were most common. So even small groups of people were able to collectively engage. One point that really fascinated me, 80.5% of the supporters of those who came out were participating in their first ever march. So truly amazing. We also had 740,000 streams of the marches on a live stream feed. And we had a presence in 7 continents, 66 countries, and all 50 states. Immediately following that, we took our social capital and moved forward to political efficacy. We asked our network of advocates to engage our high-level leadership, elected officials, in supporting science, not silence. And I've got a few numbers to throw out here, and they're all based on the United States. We had 49 out of 50 governors and state legislators that were reached, all 100 US senators, 419 out of 435 members of the House of Representatives, and advocates from all 50 states contacted the president, and 48 out of the 50 states contacted the Secretary General of the United Nations. Just an amazing community. Our next step is voting for science. It's time that we do hold our political leaders accountable for supporting good science policy. It's time to join together and demand that our leaders use science to inform their work. And we can secure a long-term future of science policy by linking science support with civic behavior. And so our program right now is the Science Vote, where we're asking our candidates in 2018 a series of 10 questions. Really, where do you stand on this? And, you know, what is your pledge? Is it for money? Is it for, you know, who are you beholden to? And in addition, we're reaching out to register and mobilize voters, continue building up grassroots communities of science organizers, and obviously reaching out to our elected officials and encouraging them to stand by sound evidence that drives their policies. So just a little quick blurb. I can share this again later, how to reach either myself, I'm Valerie, and then Kristen is really championing this organization. And I will, in the interest of time, try to hand this back over. Figure out how to get back to, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Valerie. This is so exciting. This is amazing. And so huge turnout of people. So maybe I'll mute you for a second. Oh no, now it's good. Okay, I'd like actually to invite anyone to ask any questions. If you can, anyone can unmute yourself. We have 38 people, so anyone can unmute yourself if you would like to ask Valerie any question. Right now, real time, it's your chat. And I noticed that Marian, she actually also went to March for Science in Washington, D.C. I remember that day clearly because I was in Siberia, in Russia at that time, like in the same city I'm now. And I was watching this event. I was watching this through, let me just need to and
Alex, you were watching the Women's March, not the March for Science.
Yeah, there were so many marches. That was also very empowering in terms of like there's some interests that are underrepresented and in the U.S. are so well organized. But I know this Women's March was also like turned into an international event as well. Marian, you want to comment on Valerie's presentation?
I'm just concerned. I was great. It was really interesting. I had posted a few questions in the chat box, and Yue has some questions. So I know we have two more presenters, Alex. I'm just concerned about time.
Okay, thank you so much, Valerie. I'm sure that maybe we'll have some more questions.
Yeah, I'll look back at the end. Thank you so much.
But yeah, look at the chat box now, Valerie, because the questions will get lost. Now.
Okay, and everybody, if you have any questions for presenters, feel free to type them in the chat box. Okay, now we'll move to Yue Yang. I'd like to welcome Yue Yang from China.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, this is Yue Yang.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll have 10 minutes for presentation and maybe 1 or 2 minutes for questions if there's time left.
Okay, so I will share my screen.
Sure.
Share my screen, okay. Okay. And, okay, so I begin. Hi everyone, my name is Yue Yang. I'm from Beijing Foreign Studies University. I'm very happy to share something about my experience with my campus club with all of you today. Some of you are probably not familiar with an environmental protection campus club in China. Generally, it is student organization that consists of university students, that consists of university students who are really interested or curious or passionate about nature or environmental protection to organize school-level environmental activities in campus or off campus. My campus club is called Santa County Academy, founded in 2015 when I was a sophomore. So I'm one of the co-founders. I became its second president last year, and now I'm in charge of the environmental education branch. We organize the most of the environmental activities in our campus and had cooperation with Storms Canteen and Energy Office. We also cooperate with Beijing Nature Education Center this semester. Santa County Academy is also the head campus club of Union Beijing of the Union of Beijing Environmental Protection Campus Clubs. So actually at the outset, it has been really tough to push environmental protection forward in our university because BFSU is a language university that has no environmental majors. Most language students, they live with very heavy academic pressure, like they have to study words pronunciations and memorization every day. And meanwhile, there's an overwhelming proportion of female students in our university. Like this year, we have no male member in our club this year. And there are also some other structural barriers that we can resist, such as small campus strict policies. And more importantly, there is a prevalent negative image of environmental protection among students. That environmental is often related to dirty, tiring, low salary, and too complex to solve. So as it's co-founder and president, what have I done to make it like today? And I would like to explain these strategies from the 3 perspectives that we have learned this week from the course. And first is about identity. I think they're related to identity, and they're very successful in our campus club. The first one is about we share one common name called Shaxianglu. Shaxianglu means Sand County deer in Chinese. So just like who is on the right side, we choose this animal as our symbol. So this picture is also not original, but we love this animal because we think it's a symbol of nature, and we feel good about this animal. And we also have 3 branches. Like in each branch we share one common theme, and you can see what the 3 branches are. And also every Shaxianglu has a blogging duty that they take turns to blog on our WeChat public accounts, and they have to use one common pen name called Shaxianglu again. And whenever possible, I would prepare club gifts for those active Shaxianglu as well, with a card especially calling them Shaxianglu. And I think our long-term strategic activity is related to the identity as well. For example, we have an activity called dorm trash separation, like a dorm, and every session will take care of our recycling box and the trash separation corner. So I think this identity-related advocacy that sometimes will express their surprise, their happiness, and their sense of achievement in our WeChat group. So I think they are bounded with their identity, Shaxianglu, and it's also enhanced their sense of identity. And by the way, they love the name Shaxianglu and the gifts I gave them. So if you want to try this strategy as well, maybe you can think of a very good name and care about what you really prepare for them. And second is about norms. We have our own norms called our Green Promise. It's a list of suggestions for environmental behaviors and sustainable activities. For example, we will suggest members to avoid paper advertisements, and also to warn them to bring their own bottle on the reusable bags when they're going out. And we also share news and posts related to pro-environmental behaviors and the opposite in WeChat groups on a daily basis. And sometimes we even make very positive or negative comments about a certain behavior and a social phenomenon. So I think it really works when we, in face of similar situation. And we also have team building schedule that's every semester twice for gathering. The team building activities are always salient environmental norms. For example, we always choose organic vegetarian restaurants after the activities, and every member should bring their own bottles. And last, role model is critical too, and I am a kind of role model in my campus club. My personal norms sometimes I think mine often influence greater. For example, I never order takeout and often preach about how terrible takeout is. So I have heard from some younger members, they told me that they try their best to avoid ordering takeout too, and it's such a comfort. However, our external section part is weak. Like we can do nothing with those who are not interested with obeying, not interested in obeying norms. So some members would drop out if they're not interested, or they feel stressful, and they will go away. And third is about social capital, which I think is really important for campus clubs development, whether inside or outreach. We have trips and meals and films for our inside social capital to help members make fun and know each other better. And it's kind of coincidence that I co-founded the Union Beijing Environmental Protection Campus Club this April and has been its head. So I have introduced a bunch of opportunities into our campus clubs to help members know those colleagues in different universities. And besides, we also attend many NGO and national events to develop friendships and explore potential supporters. For example, this summer holiday, we went to a national conference of campus clubs in Zhejiang University. And I also believe club-mate network is very important too. For example, our first president, she is now studying environmental science in Tokyo, and she introduced an environmental company to me this year, and so our campus club also became the first club that this company cooperates in Beijing to recycle used toothbrush and other containers. I think it's it's great to connect it to those great climates. However, the problem is only and always the 2 or 3 Shashavus have the opportunity. So we're kind of looking for more opportunities for this younger member, but it often takes a lot of effort to persuade them to go to this kind of sometimes too big or too important event for them. And happily, like all of this paid off, and we have some very good outcomes too. I'm just so happy that some of the members have developed their own career goals closely to the environment. For example, I like environmental education and me, and another member, she decided to become a social worker, and also another member, she picked up her passion about geography during high school, but her major is English, and also many members acquire skills that they can never learn from the classroom. All of the members more or less already adopted some environmental behaviors and participated in some environmental action, like our club activities. There are all kinds of environmental action in campus. And one very great thing is some of them even have their impact, like inviting their friends to join the club, attend environmental events, and also set some dorm rules. Like some member told me she has this dorm rules at their dorm that to tell all dorm mates to avoid takeout. But one thing to say that Sandton County Academy is only one example of the Environmental Protection Campus Club. I love my campus club deeply. And there are also a lot of great environmental protection campus clubs in China. Some of them even have existed for more than 20 years, and some of them are truly the cradle of environmentalists in China. And I really believe they're definitely one of the most powerful agencies of environmental education in China. And that's all about my presentation. Welcome all of your suggestions to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Yue Yang. This is so impressive.
So many things to say.
Yes, absolutely mind-blowing. We have 30 seconds for a question if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question. But there's a question from Karen Clark, and I think this is an interesting question. Is there any handbook for community, for university club leaders?
Oh, thank you.
Because you mentioned that there's a whole network of these clubs. So how to train maybe leaders or members of those clubs?
How to train leaders and members?
Whether there's any handbook, how to organize such clubs. Or how to suggestions for the leaders, etc. Because this is a great experience. I don't know if you think any steps in the future to conceptualize a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because I have organized 2 union meetings this year and 2 this semester, and I'm going to hold another meeting this weekend. Just I want to have these ideas together to those other campus clubs in Beijing about actually, in the last meeting, I've already gave them a framework about personnel proposition and training and how to do advertisement and other stuff. So I'm already on the track doing all of this. Is developing an oral handbook, and perhaps after graduation or before graduation, I will make a real handbook for them.
Thank you so much. Incredible. Thank you. If anyone has more questions for you, Yang, please type them in the chat, and she will take care of them. She will answer them through the chat. Thank you so much again. Okay, now you can unshare your presentation, and thank you. And now we have 11 minutes to go through a presentation by Juan. So Juan, maybe you can take like 10 minutes and leave 1 minute for questions and answers. Juan?
Okay. Alex, I'm going to share my screen. Just a minute.
And just I wanted to remind that Juan already presented this morning, 8 a.m. For the different audience. Usually we have totally different people participating in the morning and in the evening. His presentation is impressive, so we wanted to speak in the evening. So just try to, because we only have 10 minutes, if you go quickly, and we'll see if we can take any questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just a minute. Okay, thank you, Alex, for this opportunity. My name is Juan Felipe Restrepo. I'm from
Juan,
Cartagena.
if you would like to share like full screen, that would be even better.
I'm sorry.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, and I am from Cartagena, Colombia, in Latin America. I work in the Colegio Montessori of Cartagena, and what I want to share with you today is our environmental educational project. In this picture, you can see our symbol is the iguana and our school values. Cartagena, it's a city in the northern part of Colombia, and it's like a 1 million inhabitant city. And our school, it's a private school that has 800 students. Our school year goes from January to December. So right now we are finishing our school year, and we are in the time of our evaluations and balance. Our environmental educational project in context, it's grounded in our vision, our mission, and in the Colombian law. We envision human beings that are holistic, that are capable to understand the complex and delicate equilibrium that regulate Mother Earth processes and in its present and future sustainability. And it's grounded in the Colombian law, because in Colombia it's mandatory that every school has its own environmental educational plan by law. In a Montessori school, an environmental educational plan or program, it's a very complex and interesting one. And it is because two reasons. Number one, Maria Montessori's cosmic education model. Since the beginning of the last century, Maria Montessori said that man is part of the cosmos. She was ahead of her time. And secondly, Maria Montessori's education for peace. It is symbolized in a metaphor of a flower that has 4 petals. One petal is the self-awareness. The second is community awareness. The third is cultural awareness. And the fourth is environmental awareness. These 2 elements are omnipresent in the whole curriculum from kinder to 11th grade. So our model has to be has to correspond with these 2 concepts of principles of Maria Montessori. So we decided that our environmental educational plan was, we found out in 2016 in our quality insurance exercise that we were very good in the model, the curriculum and all that, but we need to go more into the practice, that we had to move to actions. And the school decided to hire a person to concentrate exclusively in designing this plan and put it in practice. So at the beginning of 2017, we decided that our project has to be a permanent, never a final product. It has to be a permanent construction. And 2, it is a collective construction where all the stakeholders of the community, school community, have to be represented. And we chose 4 lines of action: biodiversity preservation, solid residual management and disposal, place awareness, and citizenship. And we decided to work in 3 types of initiatives: activities as short-term, 1 or 2 days; activities programs like 1 month or 2 months; and projects more long-lasting, like 6 months or the whole year. Here, I want to share with you a collage of the activities that we undergo this year. as you can see, they involve either self-awareness or cultural awareness or community awareness or environmental awareness, or some of them or all of them, and in some way the outcomes that we are looking for in our course: identity, social norms, political efficacy, and social capital. At the beginning of the year, we participated in this 2017 Neotropical Aquatic Bird Census in a marsh nearby the city with our students, with ornithologists, and in a citizen science activity. And we also undergo a workshop to identify birds in the tropical rainforest. We have a second site in the northern part of the city that is an eco park, and we wanted that eco park to become like a live classroom, to be seen for our colleague teachers as another option for teaching. So we had these pilot experiences having classes in that eco park. We had activities and programs to build capacity among our colleague teachers, because what we wanted for next year are projects done by the students under the model of the project-based learning. So we train our teachers in problem-based learning and in project-based learning, and that also help us to build a social capital among the staff. We participated in a very important project with Conciencias, which is the investigation organ of our government. It's called Expedición Bio. It's a pilot in Colombia, 36 schools, networking with technology, sharing inventories of fauna and flora through platforms such as iNaturalist, Encyclopedia of Life, and seeing the effect of habitat degradation, in which ways this is affecting our flora and fauna. It's important to say here that Colombia is a mega diverse country. It's the #1 country in birds and in butterflies, and second in reptiles in the world. So being a citizen in a mega diverse country is something not to be taken for granted, and we want to make our students be aware of that responsibility of being a citizen of a mega diverse country. So we decided to create this knowledge fair, transforming a little bit the science fairs, the regular science fairs. And we invited the students to present blueprints of ideas addressing important issues that were significant for them and that were real issues. And we have this bank of 35 projects for next year, and among those 35 projects, we have identified like 5 projects that are addressing issues regarding biodiversity loss that are going to go to focus on that outcome of self-efficacy. Here is more or less the model. We began this year with these activities that trigger questions, that make capacity, it grew capacity. We invited people to talk, being role models for our students, and have place awareness. We build social capital, being outside with the kids, spending the night in the eco park, working with our colleague teachers. And from all that, we have today that bank of projects that in next January we're going to start working with our students in projects such as the biodiversity laws, the TT, this little monkey that is endemic of this region of Colombia. Another project is about the loss of species of birds, and another project, for example, of students wanted to see the genetic bank and how that is affected by biodiversity loss. So that is basically our environmental ecological project. And thank you again for letting me to share that. Here is my address, my emails, and some pictures that we have taken this year with our kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll take just 1 minute. I see a few comments first from Kimberly. Kimberly, actually, I have just unmuted you, or I'm trying to unmute you. Hi, Kimberly. Well, I don't know if I can unmute you. Hi. Hi. Maybe I see a few great comments from you. You can just speak them. Or if you have a super brief question for Juan.
Oh, no questions, but I just love the sound of the program. You know, it seems like the Montessori model gives a lot of flexibility to build it from the ground up, and to have it sounds like it has sustainability to be long-lasting projects where a lot of the schools here, you know, they find a project and it's maybe for a few terms or semesters, and then it fades away sometimes, you know. So it sounds like your program has a built-in way to sustain these projects.
Thank you.
By the way, Kimberly, you have a question from Karen in the chat. How do you help public schools fit EE into their curriculum? Maybe you can respond, Karen, through chat. And by the way, Kimberly, I would love to connect with you a little bit more, maybe later through email, because I did my research in the Bronx.
Yes, I remember. Cool, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We should connect. Okay, in the interest of time, because we ran out of time, I see there's a question from, I think, from Karen as well. Or so, Juan, there's a couple of questions for you in the chat. If you don't respond right now, we will save this chat, and maybe you can connect with those people through Facebook and address some of their questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, there's a question, excellent question from Karen. To what extent are children involved in selecting the project that they will undertake? That's an excellent question. And I hope you can respond, because now it's the end of this presentation. Maybe you can respond right now super quickly, 10 seconds.
Yeah, well, the idea with these activities that we performed this year was to trigger inquiry questions by the students. And we gave them the option to decide anything. They wanted to, they had the chance to decide in which area of knowledge they wanted to make their project, and what was their question that is giving them voice and choice. And we trained the teachers to foster those projects and respect that voice and choice. So what we are going to see in January 2018, our group of students working in the projects they chose, they did their blueprints, and to bring those projects to an end, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thank you, Juan. And thank you all presenters. I so much enjoyed this conversation. Yes, that's fantastic, as people comment here. Okay, so we will make announcements about next week's meetings for Spanish-speaking people and for Chinese-speaking people. So maybe we'll not have regular webinars next week. But today was fantastic. Again, we're gonna post it online on edX soon for all other participants to watch and enjoy. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas. With this, I'm gonna close. And those of you who are community group leaders, we will have a meeting in 2 minutes right here. So those who are community group leaders and want to participate in our weekly meeting, just stay here and we'll talk in 2 minutes. All others can leave and have a good night or good day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks to the presenters, and thanks, Alex. Really interesting presentations.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Marina.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, leaders, we'll meet with you in 2 minutes. Stay here for community group leaders. Thank you.